out there. Jason Sarnia here with PhinManiacs.com. I got a fun roundtable. And when I say fun, who knows what we're going to start to hear in a couple of minutes with this motley crew of Miami Dolphin fans that we have here. No cursing, Douglie Do Wrong. How you doing?
I'm good. I almost got it. I almost did it. PG-13 was going to do it right now. Just going to do it.
It's okay. You're a new father, so I'm sure the expletives are flying all over the place. But how is being a new dad, Doug?
It's tiring. I took the night shift because I'm always up at night anyway, but it's tiring. I go to bed at 5 a.m. every day. It's very tiring.
Well, with as much work you do, you don't seem to sleep much anyway. I call you the mayor of Miami Dolphins YouTubeville. So with what you're doing now, before we bring the rest of the panel in, what are all the things that you're up to now?
I actually started a brand new series on the channel because we're getting towards the point in the season where it's going to die down a little bit. You know, it dies down, then we have free agency, then it dies down, then we have the draft, and then it really dies down. I started a new series on my channel called Miami Dolphins Mythbusters. And what I'm doing is all of these myths behind the Miami Dolphins, I'm either confirming them or busting them. And the first episode that came out last week was, is the reason Dan Marino fell to 27 because of the drugs? So if you want to know if that's the real reason Dan Marino fell to 27 because he did some drugs in college, supposedly, go check out the video and you'll find out if that was true or false.
Oh, you're not going to tell us now. You're going to send us to the video. That makes sense. Yep. That makes complete sense. We'll get back to you, Doug, but thank you for coming on board. Sevach Melton, voice of God. How you doing, sir?
Fantastic. I'm happy to be here. Just a little bit tired too. Not nearly as tired as Doug, I'd imagine, because, thankfully not to cast any shade on parents, but I am a proud, not a father, but
there's nothing wrong with that. I'll live vicariously through Sevach. I'm not going to live vicariously through Doug because I'm 2 and through with children. And speaking of another pair of non-parental units, we have Jorge Hinojosa. How are you, Jorge?
Hey, Jason. Excited to be here. I know we're going to have a lot of fun. It's exciting. I'm just waiting for Doc to just start ripping the F-bomb so that I can follow suit, But yeah, it's great to be here. It's going to be a fun show. And I just want to put out an announcement, guys. If anyone's seen some hands that belong to number 19 for the Miami Dolphins, please call this number because we've been looking for them for a couple of months now. So just call this number and we'll make sure that he gets those back.
Jorge of the Two Amigos podcast is spitting fire this morning. We actually have him on a little bit of a short leash, so that might be the most incendiary that he gets. And speaking of incendiary, Jakeem Grant is pretty fast, but other than that, there's some work that needs to be done.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic though. I mean, there's never been a season in my franchise mode on Madden where I have not turned him into a superstar wide receiver. So the talent is there. We need the hands, man. Where are the hands?
I think that if you can just get him in front of a jug machine, put the helmet on, get the jug machine. He should have a jug machine in his bedroom. Wake up, alarm, boom, boom, and that should hopefully alleviate that. Hussam Patel, one of the hardest working young beat writer, podcast, soon to be doing his thing. What is going on, Hussam?
Hey guys, hey Jason, Jorge, Sevach, and Doug. Man, it's so nice to hear from you guys once again. And we talk about short leash. I gotta ask, what kind of leash am I on here today?
Shorter than Jorge, but definitely we're gonna keep you at bar here.
Okay.
You're doing very well. Okay. You're doing your thing over in PhinManiacs. Sevach, I didn't get a chance to ask you what are some of the projects that you're up to these days.
Oh, I'm sorry. We did kind of glaze right over that, didn't we?
Yeah, sometimes,
Well, the PhinManiacs PhinManiacs podcast gone a little few and far between because with the season ending and stuff. But I do believe we're going to be doing a draft-based episode and stuff, and probably a couple other ones. They'll be a little bit more sporadic. But then in the meantime, I'm also doing another podcast with Jimmy Kearns, the handsome Jimmy. It's the Nothing But Noise podcast where we're talking basically all sports, but still mostly football. We're just reaching out beyond the Miami Dolphins. And I'm also working on another project, but I'm not exactly sure how much of that I'm allowed to talk about. So we might have to come back to it. Oh, yeah.
I love it. See, we got a tease. We got to lead into a series that Doug is doing. Now, Doug, can I actually give you maybe a subject or some maybe?
Yeah, man.
I need to know where Dan Marino's first touchdown pass ball is. I need to know. I did put together a little video that Joe Rose, when he caught the ball, obviously didn't have the foresight that he caught the ball from the greatest quarterback of all time. Threw that thing like it was a bomb.
Oh my God.
And I don't know where it is. I have suspects, but I need you to maybe in episode 13.
Ooh, now that's a fun idea. I like that. No,
Just
and
gotta find
you,
that
Jason has been hammering away at that. That's kind of been an ongoing theory. You looked like Charlie Day, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I know you guys have seen that meme.
Behind the Marino plaque is literally my safe of all my goods and everything that I found so far. There's an ESPN reporter who is my suspect number one, but Doug, I'll let you pull on that thread. So with that said, I want to get opinions from this spectacular panel of, we have another person joining. We actually have a terrific Miami Dolphin fantasy football extraordinaire. Troy King is about to join us right now. So before we get the questions rolling, Troy, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing excellent. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Fantastic. Oh, yeah.
Troy is one of the top fantasy content producers in the game right now. I don't think he does much of anything other than eat, do fantasy, and that's about it. Don't think he sleeps. So from a Miami Dolphin fan and also a fantasy football expert, how was your overall 2020, Troy?
Man, my 2020 was a pleasant surprise, being Dolphin fan wise. I mean, no one expected us to. I definitely didn't expect us to do as well as we did. I expected us to be an average team overall, but I mean, our defense, I knew it was going to be good. Didn't know it was going to be that good. And offensively, there were moments that were okay. Overall, there's a lot of disappointing moments. Again, there's a lot of injuries and things like that. But overall, I'm very happy with how 2020 ended up for the Dolphins for sure.
Talk a little bit about yourself for a second before we get into the actual format of the questions. You've been doing a lot, man. And why don't you give us a little bit of a synopsis of what are some of the things that you've been up to these days?
Ooh, yeah. So I am a writer for a couple different sites, NFL, fantasy football, for Ball Blast Football, as well as Join Our Circle is another site I write for. And I also do podcasting for Join Our Circle, as well as I'm a co-host of my own podcast called Fantasy Football Confidential. And those are the main things that I've been working on, just those different sites, just trying to produce content everywhere I can, trying to have big guests on during this off season just to talk about football and fantasy football. That's kind of the synopsis of it.
Love it. You're doing great. Obviously, keep grinding in 2021. So let's get on into it. So let's talk Miami Dolphins MVPs of the 2020 season, offensively, defensively. I'm going to start off with you, Sevach. Let's stick to that defensive side of the ball. None of us really expected it to be that good of a defense. Who is your MVP?
I got to say, it's probably got to go to Emmanuel Ogbah. He really was leading the charge in terms of our pass rush and racking up sacks. I don't think I saw anybody else that was as what's the word I'm thinking of? Not that, just as influential on opposing offensive lines as Emmanuel Ogbah. So he would probably definitely be my guy. My close number two, of course, being Xavier Howard. You can't not mention him when you're talking about how good this defense was. But I did love the way that Emmanuel Ogbah played. He really came to life in this defense, and that was fantastic. I'd love to see way more of that.
Absolutely. And Troy, let's go to you now. Who is your, and if you have to overlap, it's totally fine, but who is your opinion of that defensive MVP?
I can't say anything additional, to be honest with you. It's got to be Ogbah or Xavier Howard. And to me, it's not even close. I feel like it's a big gap between those. I mean, them and the rest of the players. Not that the rest of the defense didn't show up, but they were just phenomenal. I'll have Xavier Howard just edge out just because those interceptions. I mean, he led the league. So I'm going to go. He's 1A to Ogbah 1B, but it's real close.
Doug, what do you have to add for this? Is there someone else, or are we going to pick one or the other?
I think it's probably going to be the same for all of us. But I'm going to go Xavier Howard. He was more consistent. He consistently was getting pressure, shutting down people, consistently getting interceptions. I love Agba. You know, led the team in sacks. Fun fact behind him with 7 sacks, Jerome Baker. I don't think much people expected that to happen. But my biggest knock with not having him as the MVP was there was stunts. There was a 4-game stretch, and at the end of the season, a 2-game stretch where Agba just disappeared. So that's why I have Xavier Howard as my number 1 MVP, because he was just consistently getting turnovers. He had a stretch of a couple games of him just picking people off, and some of those interceptions were just ridiculously sexy. So I'm going with Xavier Howard.
Absolutely. And we'll pivot a little bit when we get to Jorge and Hussam right now. Obviously, those are the 2 cream of the crops. Is there an unsung defensive hero, Jorge, other than those 2 that you could say did his duties?
Well, I think I'm going to break the rules a little bit here, Jason, and I'm going to say Coach Gerald Alexander is really my MVP for the Dolphins defense. And if I have to pick a player, I'd say Byron Jones, because Byron Jones is what allowed Xavier Howard to, take all those gambles and really pick off those passes, because he knew that the other side was shut down. We saw what happened when Byron was injured. He was out. The defense didn't look itself. And I just want to say the job Gerald Alexander did with the back 4 back there, back 5, if you count Nick Needham, was amazing. So for me, Byron Jones and Coach Alexander are really my MVPs for that side of the ball.
I like that take, and I think that GA, as he's called, is a future head coach in this league, whether it's 3 years, 5 years. Selfishly, I hope it's not, because you think Brian Flores is the guy who's going to be the head coach forever, and Gerald Alexander is too good of a coordinator to stay a coordinator. So, and he's not even a coordinator yet. He's a defensive backs positions coach. So, Hussam, what's your take on that unsung defensive hero? And if you have anything to say about, obviously, the stars on D.
Well, obviously, Xavier Howard is the Miami Dolphins MVP. There's no question about it. We know what he's done this year, and he's been an absolute stud. But I want to talk about not one player, but 2 unsung heroes on the Dolphins' defensive line. And those are the big boys. The first one is 2nd-round draft pick Rayquan Davis. I mean, this dude is an absolute monster. He really turned it on during the late of the season, and really taking on multiple blocks and getting into the backfield. And then there's Zack Sealer, who would have thought? He lives in an RV. He's just an awesome guy. And he was actually a pickup in the 2019 season later on as well. And the Dolphins really developed him, and he made a lot of plays in the backfield to allowing the linebackers such as Jerome Baker, Kyle Van Noy, and your man, Andrew Van Ginkel and Landon Roberts to pressure the quarterback and make sure that runs don't go beyond the line of scrimmage.
Very well said. And this defensive unit is only growing. And you got to throw even a guy, Christian Wilkins, in there. He's been playing terrific. Obviously, 1-2 years into a league, a lot of people are waiting for immediate results. People were even saying Christian Wilkins was a little bit of a bust earlier in his rookie years. That was ridiculous. And all Rayquan Davis has done was become the 2nd leading defensive lineman rookie tackler behind Chase Young in 2020. So let's go back to now the offensive side of the ball, and let's kind of do a snake draft. Troy, you're a fantasy guy. We're going to do a snake draft. We're going to keep it with Hussam. So Hussam, what's your offensive MVP for the Miami Dolphins in 2020? We might have a little bit of differentiation here across the panel now.
Well, my offensive MVP is someone who's a little bit unlikely. I'm not going to say Tua, because even though he did come on, after the Jets game, I wouldn't necessarily claim him as the MVP. What I am going to say is actually Robert Hunt and Solomon Kindley, the 2 big boys in the offensive line. Even though they are rookies, they really, really turned it on, and they played well in their respective positions. They were just straight up plug and play players, and they held up most of their own.
That's a good take right there. I really, I'm an offensive line guy. A lot of people know that. Fill up, give me another 650 pounds in the draft on the offensive line to fill in those holes. So let's see if I remember this order here on the snake draft. Troy, offensive MVP.
Man, this is a tough question, actually. Tougher than I expected it to be, I guess. And I think injuries kind of played it. I'll go Gaskin. I mean, just because when he was healthy, he obviously no one expected him to do anything. I remember writing an article in the offseason. I was thinking that it was going to be like a thunder and lightning thing with Jordan Howard and Matt Breida, and I was horribly wrong. That take obviously didn't translate. So Gaskin, obviously he didn't do anything last year. I wasn't expecting him to do anything. I think most fans didn't even count on him to be productive at all. He was an afterthought. And what he was able to do with that line, with just the passing game and the goal line, he struggled. But that's really the only place that was the only like fault that I saw. Like overall, he was just extremely impressive. And there's no other player to me that was more of a pleasant surprise on the offense than Gaskin.
7th rounder and played really like he was a 2nd or 3rd rounder. And hopefully he still has a good solidified place in that Miami backfield. Jorge, offensive MVP in your mind. It's not number 19.
No, for sure. I'm actually going to go with another coach, and it's going to be George Godsey, the tight ends coach for the Dolphins. He not only coached the most productive tight end unit in franchise history with, Mike Gesicki, Smythe, Shaheen, and so on, but he was actually, moved to be a quarterbacks coach halfway through the season. Now, I'm not sure if anyone out there has any coaching experience, but when you're coaching a unit and you have to change mid-season to another unit, that's a really, really tall task, and I think he did a great job. And if the rumors are true that he's going to be, a co-offensive coordinator with Coach Stutzfield, I think that's going to be a great tandem. And he has to be my MVP. I mean, that unit really produced both pass catching and blocking for the offense.
And all that has done for George Godsey has got him a promotion, or 0.5 of a promotion, if you can kind of call it that. I like the co-coordinators. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. Sevach, your offensive MVP.
I don't know how this hasn't come up yet, but go ahead and say Ryan Fitzpatrick. Okay, I know it might not appear so at first glance, but when the way that this man came in and won a few of those games, and of course you have to throw in that no-look pass against Oakland, Las Vegas.
That's fine. you have a 2-year limit on that where it's allowed, and then you gotta. If you say St. Louis Rams, then you can't say St. Louis anymore.
Yeah, then I got to get out. That's it. But yeah, you got to toss in that no-look pass where he's getting his freaking head ripped off and manages to complete that bad boy down the field. Just the way that he played, came in clutch in those situations when he absolutely needed to. To me, it's hard to give it to anybody other than Fitz. But I did like the way Jorge keeps naming coaches. So I don't think we've got that on our little outline here. We weren't talking about special teams. I want to toss in our coordinator, Danny Crossman. Damn good job from him. And of course, King Sanders, Mr. Jason Sanders himself. I don't think we had a more dependable weapon than that man right there. So those would be my picks.
Jason Sanders,
I like that one.
I love that one. He is going to have a career after football in South Florida. He could sell whatever he wants. I'll buy it. So maybe it's luxury automobiles. So I don't know. But Doug,
King Sanders Cadillac.
There it is. Or luxury imports.
Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders.
Some kind of merger going on. I
dig that.
And we also have a big fish reeled in right now. We got co-host of The Fish Tank, Seth Levit, joining us. And you just came right in time, Seth. We're doing offensive and defensive MVPs for the 2020 Dolphins. But before we let in the Jedi of all Jedis, I see the Star Wars hat there, sir. How you doing, Seth?
I'm doing well. How's everybody doing?
I'm good.
Excellent.
Excellent. Sorry to just drop in on y'all late like this, but it was Pinewood Derby Day for my son's Cub Scout troop. So
right
pack.
on.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
Day. He did okay. It was our first one, and he dominated his heat, but finished second in his den and 7th overall. So I can't complain.
That's A+ analysis, like most that you do is all A+ analysis. Love how you dive in.
It wasn't an A+ finish. We didn't come home with the trophy, but
it's okay. It's okay.
We'll take it. We're developing squad.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And, thank you for diving in. Very much appreciate it. And, this is also a day I'm sure is on your calendar, on your radar, the great Zach Thomas. It hopefully, fingers crossed, is his day. We'll talk number 54 in a moment, but what's your take on the 2020 Dolphins? I know the defensive side of the ball might be an easy MVP. I'd love to hear yours, and we'll do offensive next. Who is your defensive MVP this year?
Yeah, I mean, Xavier Howard was one of the best players on defense in the entire league. So I think that's kind of a runaway, although there were some tremendous performances all year long, right? I mean, Ogba was fantastic. I know Van Ginkel was a lot of fun to root for and had some big plays. And, there were so many guys that did a lot of great things. And it was exciting to see that defense just do a complete 180 under Josh Boyer. And they kept this team in a lot of games and actually served as offense in a lot of games. And they were just a really special defense. And it was fun to wear the aqua and orange again and root for those guys. But Xavier Howard was just elite. Elite gets overused, I believe, when, these days when we talk about players, but that guy played at an elite level.
Before we go to offense, I want to not a put on the spot question, but more of an opinion question. You were with the Dolphins watching guys like Sam Madison, Pat Surtain. If you had to pick one, no, I'm not going to put you so on the spot. I want to know.
That's okay. I can handle it.
Who is he similar to? If you had a,
Oh, wow. Similar. That's hard to say, right? Because it's just such a different game. The type of defense those guys could play, the way they played press back then. Certainly it gave those defensive players a better chance against receivers. We know that the game is geared towards scoring points these days, and particularly towards quarterbacks and receivers. And so, from that standpoint, you could say it's harder to play corner now, but just because you could put your hands on a guy back then doesn't mean that everybody could do it. And Sam Madison, people forget, for a stretch of about 3 years, Sam Madison was, pick your top guy when they had Revis Island, he was as good as anybody in the league for a good 3 or 4 years. And he put those claws on you and nobody could get away from him. And it was crazy. We heard Channing Crowder when he was in the fish tank talk about, 10 on 10, leave me alone. And that was his deal. Like, I've got my man on lock and you guys got to handle the rest of the field. So he was fantastic. Pat Surtain was as good as anybody who's ever played corner for this team in the history of the franchise, I believe. Just so physical at the corner position, so smart. Those guys were just spectacular players, and Pat could also play the slot, which is something that I think a lot of folks don't realize. When he first came into the league, Terrell Buckley was starting, and Jimmy didn't want to sit T-Buck for Pat, even though he knew that he had a special player in Pat. But Pat could play that slot, which Jimmy looked at as a third corner, as a third starter. And he was very special inside or outside. So those two guys have a special place in my heart. That was, the era that I was working for the team. Who is X similar to? I don't know. That's a hard one to answer. But I think that when I talk to the older guys, not quite as old as me, or older than me, I should say, they all say, hey, Seth, if Don McNeil didn't get hurt, that was another guy who was a special corner for this team. But, I think Pat and Sam are clearly the best two corners to ever play. But X is putting it together, man. And, hopefully he's here for a long time and continues to play like that. He's right there in that conversation.
Hey, Seth, yeah, I've been on a coach's streak lately throughout this panel. So, Pat Surtain, he's coaching down in Miami High School. Dolphins have shown that they are willing to go for high school coaches to bring into their program, and they did it with great success last year. Do you see him coaching for the Dolphins anytime soon?
I couldn't make that call. It's a good question. You talk about coaching. Sam's coaching tomorrow, right? Sam's going to be coaching for another Super Bowl ring, potentially. And he won one as a player with the Giants, and he's coaching with the Chiefs again. Pat is so smart, and it doesn't surprise me at all that he's doing so well at American Heritage. Doesn't surprise me at all that his son is probably going to be the number one cornerback, or could be the number one cornerback taken in the draft. And not just because he has, uncanny size and strength and speed at that position, but he was coached really well from the time he was a little guy. Could Pat make the transition? He certainly has the ability. Does he want to? Does he want to keep coaching in high school? Does he want to just move on because his son, he wants to watch his son play on Sunday? I don't know those answers, but does he have the wherewithal and knowledge? There's no question.
Seth, I don't want to put you in the spot asking about another former.
This is a whole lot of on the spot, Seth, question. I'm just thinking, Sarny.
You're getting me in trouble, Jorge. I had a deal with Seth.
No, I'm good. Keep it coming. I don't need any support.
there is another former Dolphins player coaching high school down in South Florida.
Yeah.
His son just committed to Arizona.
Yeah.
His other son just received another offer for Arizona as well. Do you think he could come in, give the young guys some tips on not just rushing the passer, but picking those balls up and, having that Air Jordan celebration when they go into the end zone? I mean, just asking the questions, man.
Right. So does he have, again, can he do it? I think he'd be fantastic. JT is really a guy who's pretty good at anything that he's one of those guys, right? Don't you hate those guys at anything they do? They find a way to be really good at it. And but he's one of those guys. I never thought he'd get into coaching. He was not, and I know we're going to talk about Zack a little bit. JT studied film, he worked out, he did all the things he was supposed to do, but he wasn't one of these guys that wanted to spend all day. He had a lot of things going on in his world, and he kind of felt like you do what you need to do to get it done, and do everything you need to do to get it done, but you don't have to sit around somewhere to prove somebody that you just spent a lot of time somewhere. And I just never thought he'd be a kind of guy that would want to spend 10, 12, 14, 18 hours coaching and watching film. And he started coaching his boys. He did not, when his boys started playing tackle football, he got into coaching because he didn't want somebody else to be coaching them and coaching them the wrong way. And quite honestly, Sam kind of talked him into it as well. Sam and Rondé, all those guys were coaching for AYFL football in Davie, Florida down here. And he caught the bug. Davie Bronco. I see some heads nodding there, Davie Bronco. But JT caught the bug. He really loved it. And then when he started coaching high school ball, he treated it like he's a professional coach. And I had to meet with him one time, and I walked in, and he was sitting there watching film. They were playing my alma mater, Piper. That was, I hate to say it, but at one
St.
point,
Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah, he's coaching. Well, sure. St. Thomas is like, Division II college, and maybe even more. And
it's a staple down here, man.
Yeah. Well, nationally, right? Nationally. So, but that's not to take away from the credit of the caliber of coaching. They got some horses for sure. Right, but he was breaking down film playing against Piper, which he probably could have just showed up without practicing for the week and beat my poor Piper Bengals. But he took it that seriously. And, I don't even know how it's fair, right? And there's a lot of great high school coaches, but when you got guys who played at the highest level, the guy's got a gold jacket for crying out loud, and he's breaking down film against a high school coach. It doesn't seem right. Could he make the leap? I think he'd be fantastic. He's worked with a lot of professional guys. He's helped guys who are preparing for the draft. He's helped guys historically with the team who've been looking for a little extra help. Has got a lot of knowledge to offer. And he also has, and I think the biggest thing we talk about at the head coaching level, right? So he's got the skill set, which I think your position coaches really need to be just great teachers. But at the highest level, you've got to be a manager. You've got to be a mentor. You've got to be a leader. And, we see that with Brian Flores. I think that's as much of his the success story as anything is his ability to lead men, right? And to have directive, to have a mission, and to get 53 guys to buy in and follow. It's not an easy thing to do. And I think JT has the ability to do that. Would he do it? I don't know. His boys, as you said, are going to start playing college ball here pretty soon. I think he's going to want to enjoy life and be able to fly around the country on Saturdays and see where his boys are playing. And on Sundays, hopefully sit in the booth with Joe and Jimmy and call Dolphin games.
Tell JT to come over to the PPO Bengals because we really need it.
He would not touch PPO, man.
Not
messing with those guys.
Why would you do that to
we got Patel recruiting here. I love it.
Little Pat played for PPO.
I know, man.
He played for PPO.
I know.
It is unbelievable for me. It's like the golden era for me, Seth, and I know we've talked about this, was, 93, 4, 5, 6, that like mid-90s. And once that team became solidified with Zack, Jason Taylor, the cornerbacks with Sam and Pat, now we're watching their children play and maybe drafted, and now they're going to maybe be coaches.
There's no maybe about it. Yeah.
No, I'm saying maybe the Dolphins, but that's
right. Right. Yeah. Well, I'd be shocked.
I'd be shocked too.
This is not a prediction. I'm not saying this on behalf of the team, and I have no idea what Chris Greer's got planned. But boy, if they drafted a cornerback and at 3, I think people would really kind of raise an eyebrow.
Another one?
I would agree. Right. But you got to give us
can't have too many, but that might be too many.
You're absolutely right. You got to give us an offensive MVP. And Doug, I know you owe us an offensive.
Oh man, I was hoping you weren't going to say that.
Oh, I remember.
I don't know. I think there were waves, right? I think there were waves where, when he was playing, I feel like Myles Gaskin was as valuable as anybody. And it's really weird to say that. Like, nothing jumped off. You know, this wasn't Derrick Henry or anything of that nature. But the offense just seemed to move differently when that kid was in there. You know, both running the ball, both catching the ball. I thought he was a really productive player. And I don't know if you talked about the quarterback thing, and I'm glad I missed it if you did. And I love Tua, and I really believe and hope that he's got a great future with this franchise. But I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, did some great things for this offense. And even you could even argue, even when he wasn't playing, serving as a mentor for Tua. I think that those, there's some real value there. I'm a big Mike Gesicki guy. I think he's a lot of fun to watch, and wish he was involved more. I don't know, in fairness, I don't know enough to say, was he not involved in certain games because of play calls, because of scheme, because of what the defense was giving him, because certain quarterbacks were looking for him more than others. I don't have those answers. I do know that he creates a heck of a mismatch, and he's a guy that I think will only continue to develop, and probably. A lot of people were excited because of his athleticism when he was drafted. A lot of people were disappointed because he didn't produce in the way they hoped he would and questioned his toughness. I thought he showed, look, he's never going to be a guy that just blows people off the ball and the blocking in the run game. But man, him playing that last game where, when we were getting our butts kicked and he was still out there and had his arm hanging off of his body and he was still in there playing. I thought that guy showed a lot of courage and guts and was really productive. Those are guys that I point to. I think I would have liked to see more out of the wide receiver position, but they were banged up a lot this year. And give some credit to that young offensive line. I know I basically just totally dodged this question by naming damn near everybody on offense. But it really kind of was like MVP by committee. Nobody stood out. You didn't have a guy who had 10 interceptions on the other side of the ball. There wasn't that guy. So I think any success they had, there were different heroes each week.
I'm completely with that mindset. And my guy, I'm glad you mentioned Mike Gesicki. It's hard to call him, the most valuable player when you look at the entire statistics, but I think Jorge mentioned that George Godsey was his MVP, and Mike Gesicki was part of that triple-headed tight end room that was the most productive Miami Dolphins tight end in a decade. And this was kind of, the committee that was because of Gesicki's presence. So, yeah, I agree with you, Seth. He's going to continue to develop, and I think he is a future hopeful staple for years and years and years to come with the Dolphins. So, Doug, any other offensive-minded player before we get into Zach Thomas? Because this, hopefully, fingers crossed, is going to be a major day for him.
Seth nailed it right on the head with the offense. It's hard to pick just one person. Fitz came in. We had the Raiders game where he helped us win it with the no-look pass. Even at the beginning of the season, Fitz was in there doing fantastic things. Against Buffalo, he was throwing some fantastic passes. With the Jaguars game, he played great. The Jets, he did very good things. Even Tua had his ups, Tua had his downs. Rookie coming off of rehabbing all off season, had 2 weeks to get ready for the season. Can't really knock Tua. Offensive line struggled at points, but again, it was to see how they did with 3 rookies starting was fantastic. Run game wasn't really there, but like we were talking about Myles Gaskin, you dumped the ball off to him. That kid was breaking off. The big touchdown against the Raiders, fantastic. I'm in the same boat as Seth. It's hard to pick an MVP. I love if I had to, I love me some Fitz. Like Seth said, on the sideline, he was just helping Tua. My favorite memory, and I'm so glad that the Dolphins got this on a clip, was when Tua ran it in for a touchdown the second time he got into the red zone. First time against the Patriots, he threw an interception. Second time, he runs it in for a touchdown. He's sitting with Fitz, and they're talking. And first thing Tua says to Fitz is, "How is my ball security?" And Fitz said, "Who cares, man? You scored a touchdown. No one cares about that. Just enjoy the touchdown." That's what I love. But you see what Brian Flores did, right? Year one of this rebuild, he focused on the defense. He drafted a ton of defensive players. He brought in a ton of defensive free agents, top 10 defense. Now, this offseason, he's going to focus on that offense. And if everything goes well, you're going to have a well-rounded team that's going to be extremely dangerous. But like Seth said, it's hard to pick pinpoint one MVP on this offense because there was games where they played well together and then there's games where they didn't play well together. But if I had to, I would say Fitz, just because of off the field. He was a great mentor to Tua, and he came in and he helped a lot.
You danced around that almost as badly as I did.
It was a hard one, man. It was a hard one.
You got to say, Seth, that was a masterful sidestep. Just like, oh, offensive MVP. How about everybody?
Everybody. Or nobody, right?
Or no one.
I like it. I like it because it's a good problem to have when you're thinking about, who's leading this young offense, because it's exactly what it is. And, the skill position players are coming. The cavalry's coming to help. And now I want to talk about Zach Thomas. And Seth, you had your experience, being in the building, watching Zach work, watching him play. This is kind of let's share some stories here that you could say when you think of Zach Thomas, whether it's on the field or whether it's what you know from him personally. What is the story of stories you can tell us right now safely?
Oh man, where do I begin? OJ and I were just on with Travis and Drive Time talking about Zach, and it was another one of those tell us your favorite Zach story. And it's hard to pick one when you know somebody that long and they're that special. I was very lucky I kind of came into the league with Zach. He just had a much cooler job and was far more talented. But, my intern year was 1996 and he was a 5th round draft choice. And I'll never forget, he was a big deal coming out of Texas Tech, but, in the pros, we just thought he was a guy that was going to play special teams and maybe get cut. And we started getting all these requests in the PR office, and my boss, Harvey Green, handed me a slip and said, yeah, it's interview request, and I don't know who the guy is, see if you can find him. And so I went, and Zach did this interview, and a week later he's starting, and Jack Del Rio's cut, and it was pretty crazy to see it happen. It's hard to pick one story. The thing, and not to give you the same information I gave Travis, but after thinking about it, as a player, there were so many moments throughout Zach's career that we could point to. So many, tackles for losses, goal line stands, the interceptions, all the numbers that we've been talking about, and why we think that he's got a legitimate case for the Hall of Fame. I think the first play anybody remembered him, the Shawn Jefferson hit that knocked Shawn out. And again, you never wish that on anybody, regardless of what colors they're wearing, but it knocked Shawn Jefferson out cold and fumbled the ball, and was one of those where 70,000 people collectively give you that big, in the stadium. And that was Zach Thomas. And that's what we saw every week for the rest of his career. And so that play, I think, when a guy's first play kind of is one that sticks with him the rest of his career, and he's a good player, it's not like he's a one-hit wonder. It just tells you that, there's some consistency there. But the other story I brought up, if you didn't hear it on Drive Time, that really tells me the kind of guy that Zach is that he got invited to go during halftime or something, do this little game for the Miami Heat, where he goes on the court and he does a little shooting contest, and if he, does the layup and the free and then the free throw and 3-pointer, and depending on what he makes or whatever, different people in the crowd win. And before he went down to the old Miami arena, he said, where can I go shoot some hoops? And he went and shot free throws for an hour because he didn't want to embarrass himself. He didn't want to put bad tape out there. And so it's like, that's who he is. He's I think he's motivated by being disrespected. He's all about respect. Any interview he says, he somehow finds a way to string respect, back to back to back about 18 times. So he's all about that, doesn't want to be disrespected. But he also, some of the great ones have that fear of failure or fear of looking bad, and he doesn't ever want to look bad. And so his preparation was elite. There's certain things you hear about guys that become almost mythical or legendary the older we all get, and I'm guilty of perpetuating some of that. But Zach prepared like no other, and he literally put in as much time as coaches. And it didn't matter if he was playing or not playing. It didn't matter if it was a preseason game. He would go into a preseason game where he was going to play one series and do hours and hours and hours of film and fill up notebooks on something you don't even know what it is. Those guys aren't even running a real offense. So he's just a different kind of guy that way. And clearly it showed on the field. He certainly would tell you about how he could read alignments but he knew what guys were running, and not just anybody. He knew what Peyton Manning was running. He knew what the best players in the league were going to run before they even ran it. And then he went and made the plays on top of it. So just a special player.
Love that story about the free throws. It's again, it's elite preparation. And to kind of go on into that, one of the stories, my favorite stories, and all of them are such great stories on the tank and hearing what, my favorite players, their nuances of preparing the Cheetos, just having Zack film study and the Cheeto film all over just because he's so in his element and eating his Cheetos, watching film.
He needed to wash his damn hands though. Seriously.
Hey.
Now I hadn't heard that story before. Jason Cole told that story, but like I said the other day, after seeing the way Zack and Izzo were living their rookie year in that apartment there, it doesn't surprise me that there was Cheeto dust all over the place. But he did. He worked his tail off, and it just was. We literally would sneak food down to him. The coaches were always in the staff lounge. The coaches were always served dinner every night because they were working so late. And we'd, myself, somebody else, we'd always pile some food on a plate and sneak it down to Zack down there in the basement in the linebacker room as he was breaking down film. And I'd leave at 6:30, 7:30 at night and bring him a plate of food down. And he's like, I'll be out of here in about 3 or 4 hours. It just every night. It was incredible.
That's awesome. That's just one of the reasons that don't show up on a stat sheet. Although his stat sheets are loaded, these are one of the things that make him so deserving of that honor. And, to go kind of clockwise here, Troy, what's your number one memory or, just something that you think of right away when you think of 54?
Yeah, I was going to say, because when Zach Thomas I'm only 30. So when he was playing.
Were you old enough to watch Zack play?
Yeah, so my dad, though. So,
oh, God, I feel old.
So look, he's a legend, obviously, with Dolphin. My dad absolutely loved him. So I remember him just being amazing, just being younger. I just didn't understand football really when he was at his elite level, but really just how much my dad always talked about him every single day, and obviously Jason too. And that's, for me personally, he was just phenomenal. I can't say too much about, cool stories like you guys are talking about, but obviously he's just a legend, and I just enjoyed watching him. I don't have much to say besides that. We all know how great he was, and I think he's definitely going to get into the Hall tomorrow.
That would be great. We are all waiting for it. Sevach, I love that you got the white and aqua 54 to go with my aqua and white. So what's your favorite 54 story?
Well, aside from that jersey, because that's actually the first jersey I ever owned. It was a gift from my dad, a fellow Dolphin fan, and that was what really prompted me to watch defense, because I had never really paid that close of attention to defense before. Of course, I was a little kid too, and we all care about the offense. That's where the sparks fly, at least on the surface level. So getting that jersey really made me pay attention, and when I watched him play, it was just incredible. There was a clear difference between him and everybody else on the field. And but I gotta say, my favorite play from him had to be that pick 6 he caught against Tennessee, where he does the somersault into the end zone.
He hurt himself doing that.
He did.
He tweaked he had like a high ankle sprain on that, and he had to kind of fake it and tough it out he hurt himself doing that.
Was he kind of reprimanded for doing the somersault, or?
No, you got to pick 6 as long as you show up back in the play. Do it. That's what I'm saying. He didn't want to be reprimanded either, but he did. He tweaked it. And to his credit, so the Thomas family gymnastics was really, his sister's incredible gymnast, and his brother Bart might be the best athlete in the family, incredibly athletic, and dunk a basketball at 6 feet tall and the whole thing. But Zack is they unbelievable gymnast, and he could go off a high dive and do double flips, and you ever see him on a trampoline, and so doing the flip was not but I just think that there's a lot of adrenaline, and he probably never did a flip and landed with cleats, and those cleats catch that grass, and so that's a little known fact on that play, is he tweaked his ankle and had to tough it out the next week.
Wow, how about that? Douglie, what do you got, my man?
Zach Thomas, one of my all-time favorite Dolphins, him and Jason Taylor, absolutely loved watching him play. I was born in 87, so I did get to watch him play a little bit.
A bunch of babies, man.
That's right.
But my favorite thing about Zach Thomas is, his size. You wouldn't think much of him, right? Zach Thomas isn't this big linebacker, but all of a sudden he's there, right? His interceptions, the quarterback throws the ball, said, and boom, Zach Thomas picks it off. And you're just like, but my favorite is when they would run the ball and all of a sudden there'd be this pile and he would just come right through the pile and just destroy these running backs. And you wouldn't see him coming. He would just kill people. And that is my favorite thing about Zach Thomas is his undersize. Everyone kept saying, oh, he's so small. He's not this, he's not that. And he would just shut those people up, grab interceptions out of the air, knock people on their butts. It was just, he was my favorite. I have like all 4 different colors of his jersey, him and Jason Taylor, my 2 favorites. I grew up watching them. They're the main reason I'm a Dolphins fan. I grew up watching Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor, Dan Marino. How do you not become a Dolphin fan when watching 3 of the all-time greatest Dolphins? So it's just, I'm sidestepping again. I don't have one specific memory, but just the way he played and how he shut people up with his size. He was like, all right, I'm small, but cool. I'm going to knock you on your ass.
Right. And Hussam, I know you're going to make us all feel a little older than we should feel.
Yeah,
but
I was about to say when Seth was like, bunch of babies in here, I'm like, wait till Hussam speaks.
Yeah, when my grandfather used to take me to the games.
What do you got on your historical love for Zach Thomas?
Listen, man, Seth, you're going to hate me for this, but I was born in 1999.
Come on, man.
I graduated high school that year. Oh, my God.
Come on.
I thought I
My
was.
daughter was born in 1999. My oldest.
Hey.
I was born in 19. Golly.
Hussam, get
So
out.
listen, man, I don't have a lot of memory about watching
99.
Zach Thomas play that much. But if you ask
Let's
my
keep it
dad, I'm
moving,
pretty
man.
sure.
All right,
Some
Hussam.
think Zach
pretty sure,
Thomas
man.
was a Dallas Cowboy, not a freaking Miami Dolphin.
Well, let me say
Listen,
this.
I hated it.
Oh,
I
let me say
hated that
this.
move when they traded him. I
There you
hated
go.
that.
Say this. We're
Go ahead,
counting
Seth.
it here. I think, unfortunately, it has been difficult for folks to be a Dolphins fan for quite some time, right? Until Coach Flores took over, and we have great, hope has now turned into success, and I think the sky's the limit. But for the last 20 some odd years, really since I left in 2004, prior to 2004, it's been challenging. And so when you find someone so much younger who is still a passionate Dolphins fan, I think that's a wonderful thing. That's great that you still found a way to cheer for this team that we all know you should be cheering for, even though you didn't have an opportunity to watch some of these great players. So, let's look at the upside there.
I'm going to make Seth feel a lot better because I'm going to jump into our age pool here. My favorite.
I'm good, man. I'm good. I finally came to grips with it. I'm just the old guy.
Well, I just turned 40, so I haven't come close to coming with grips to it yet. So the number one memory that I have about Zach Thomas was kind of twofold. The game memory was against the Houston Oilers. So that's number one. And the fact is, he got his
Which
first.
just tells how old you are right there.
Oilers, wow.
Exactly.
Oilers.
Hussam, the Houston Oilers.
Another pick six,
now.
right?
You got it. That was against Chris Chandler, Hussam. You know Chris Chandler? No, but I'm just kidding, Hussam. I watched that game in an emergency room of a hospital. My brother got hurt. He was okay.
Arnie always has these crazy stories. I was on the second floor of the fraternity house in Buffalo.
Man. As a
I feel like nine out of 10 of them take place in a hospital.
This is why.
I wouldn't even start seeing proof next time.
Come on, man.
Oh, dude. 100,000%.
Watch the games in your living room. It's a lot safer.
As a New Yorker in 1996, 97, I had no other choice to get lucky with Marino on the national telecast and broadcast, Jet game. So a lot of times, I was, as a kid growing up, watching 5 games, 6 games in a season, or when I got old enough to say, hey, Dad, can you take me to a restaurant that kind of has these, games, Hooters. Other places that are just,
Hooters.
where am I going to
Like,
watch
you
a
take
game?
me to a restaurant because his hospital food sucks.
Exactly. I mean, I'm waiting for my brother to tweak an ankle in soccer to go watch a game on a closed circuit TV. But anyway,
He's like, Dad, hey, slide me a little beer next time,
Exactly. But when I was able to watch games in the comfort of my living room growing up in New York, it was a joy. But being able to, even going further back, watching something called the Bob Hope All-American announcement. Remember, Bob Hope was a comedian. He did an All-American football thing. I know, Cedric, you're getting like, oh my God. But he did a thing every, off season where he named and announced the All-American team. And here comes Zach Thomas. I'm watching in my living room, because it was on ABC. And this little guy comes running out in shoulder pads that are bigger than his ears almost. And he had this Texas Tech jersey. And I said, you know what? I would love for that guy to be a Dolphin. And that was the first year that I watched the weekend draft. Like, it was a weekend, Hussam, Saturday and Sunday. All right. It wasn't during prime
Wow.
time. So it was Sunday. It was later in the draft. And I was like, that's the guy. And I went nuts. And I just, from that moment on, I rooted for him and I hoped. And it wasn't like I was able to check a Twitter feed and knew that he took Jack Del Rio's job. These are things that came on later as I was able to kind of see as my fandom came on. And as Douglie mentioned, and he's a New Jersey guy, it's guys like Marino Thomas, and that's my wall right there. And OJ McDuffie from, his rookie year on. That was my my Mount Rushmore. And the day that hopefully is today that we find out that Zach Thomas gets to the Hall of Fame, it's almost like it's a playoff win. It's a Hall of Fame induction for all of us. And I'm getting emotional right now because he's honestly someone who I've had the pleasure of meeting. I didn't think he was going to be like a cool guy, but he was the exact opposite of my worry. He was the coolest dude I've ever met, and I had the absolute pleasure. I'm not going to share that story because it's just a personal story, and Seth knows it, but it meant so much to me to have a conversation with Zack and another Dolphin or two. But it was just a moment where you say you're never supposed to meet a hero. Bull. If you have an opportunity, go up to that hero and give it a shot. I never would have forgiven myself.
I don't know. They're not all going to be like Zach, Sarny.
No, I understand that.
I get let down more times than not. I'm just going to tell you.
I understand.
Hey, Seth, can you let me meet JT?
I don't have I'm not.
Hussam, put a lid on it, Hussam. I got to get that short leash on it. Hussam, I'm muting you.
One of those games. You got to go to one of those games.
Go ahead. You were about to jump in.
No, well, here's what I'm going to say. I think clearly, Zack is one of the all-time fan favorites, and rightfully so. A lot of people want to see Zack get into the Hall of Fame, and I don't think it's just because people are fans. I think that he's deserving. I truly believe he's deserving, and I believe the voters believe he's deserving. What I will say is, and I had no idea how intricate the process was until JT went on his journey when he became eligible and fortunately made it as a first ballot Hall of Famer. It's quite a process, man. And so, look, I believe Zack deserves to go in. I hope it happens tonight. If it doesn't happen, I also hope that Dolphins Nation doesn't lose their damn minds.
They're going to lose their damn minds.
They will. But the thing is,
I was going to ask that question. If he doesn't get in, do we riot?
No, the bad word.
No riot. And I've seen people call for it on Twitter. I think it is absolutely a matter of when and not if. And it's just only 5 guys out of 15 can go in this year, right? Only 5 guys out of 15 can go in. There are 11. Some first ballot. Peyton Manning's taken up one of those spots. Yeah. No matter what you guys think, who anybody wants. That spot's gone. So now you got
damn it,
4 guys.
It should be Peyton Manning and then Zach Thomas 4 times, okay?
I like that. And Peyton Manning probably thought he saw Zach Thomas 4 times every time he got up to the line of scrimmage. However, you've got guys like Charles Woodson in there. You've got guys like Megatron. Those guys have the potential to be first ballot guys. And if they are, that means there's only 2 spots left for 12 guys. And so in that instance, as much as we want Zack to be in there, there's probably a lot of fans of a lot of different guys. And there's some guys that have been in that room 8, 9 years and have yet to get in. And so sometimes those voters look at it. Well, okay, this guy, this is his last chance to get in. Zack still has the next 15 years, and we'll get and so they start to compartmentalize and they start to look forward and who's up next year. And not everybody likes to hear that, but that's the reality of it, even though that there are 40 to 50 voters, whatever that number is. So, I'm just saying, I'm certainly not rooting against it, because there'd be nothing better than for Zack to get that call, or however they're doing it this year, since, with COVID, it's all different. There'd be nothing better than for Zack to get in. And I believe he will get in, whether it's tonight or somewhere down the line. But if he doesn't, it doesn't mean all hope is lost.
I got a question for everyone. If you had the choice this year between Zach Thomas getting in or Richmond Webb getting in, who would you choose?
That's a real. You know why that's such a tough question? Is because
it's not fair.
But
he's not in the room. You know what I mean? So that's, the PR guy in me is like, non-starter.
It's when Richmond deserves to be in that
Hall of
Fame. I mean, when you put and they didn't even start tracking all the measurables for offensive linemen, like offensive penalties and whatnot, until I believe like 95, Seth, 94 or something.
I mean, the data's there. I just, you didn't have all this pro football focus stuff.
Right.
You
but he didn't allow penalties that much compared to, like a Tony Baselli. He's on the same realm as a Willie Rofe, Doug, Walter Jones. But the thing that to me, and, just to kind of sorry to go back to Zach Thomas, when Kevin Mawai took time of his induction speech to shout out Zach Thomas, that's a peer on peer. That's proof is in the pudding. A Hall of Famer is saying that his nemesis should be in the Hall of Fame. Bruce Smith was the greatest pass rusher, arguably, ever to play the game from the defensive end spot. And his production against
from any spot.
Lawrence Taylor and then Bruce Smith, of course, absolutely. But, he was cut in half with Richmond Webb when he went against the old school Colts, because they were in the AFC East, the Jets, and the Pats. He was averaging a sack plus a game. And when you went up against the Dolphins, when you were Bruce Smith, he went down to about 0.6 sacks per game. So you go from over a sack per game to under a sack per game against Richmond Webb. And to me, that is, one of the proof that it's a tough question, though. It's a great question, but I need to see them both in if I had my druthers. But I think it's Zach's weekend. Zach's got to be number one. And then with all due respect to Richmond, Seth, I mean, you know more than me in this. What are your thoughts?
With my thoughts on what?
Deserving or to kind of take.
I think Richmond is a Hall of Fame caliber player. I think Mark Clayton. I think if anybody's getting the raw deal, Mark Clayton got completely passed over. And I mean, Mark Clayton had 18 touchdowns in 1984. Guys weren't doing that then. Reggie Wayne's a guy who's on the ballot now. Hell of a receiver. Marvin Harrison's already in. To me, Peyton's going to have both of his receivers in the Hall. Danny didn't have either of them. And Clayton, 80-something touchdowns. And I get that the rules changed, and so the numbers got inflated after him. But that's a Hall of Fame caliber player. I think Richmond absolutely is a Hall of Fame caliber player. But the reality is that Richmond's never, I don't think he's ever made it to the cut of 25, let alone in the room. And Zach is in his second year in the room. And so to me, the conversation is Zach Thomas. You kind of deal with, not to go and sound like a coach that you wish would tell you something that you want to hear and he's not telling you, but that's what's in front of us. This is the guy that the selectors believe is deserving of being in the conversation, being in the room. And so, anybody else, I think, next year, when they come out with the new list and what have you, then those conversations can be had. But, Jason Cole, who was on our show as a voter, said that there were other offensive linemen that they felt were ahead of Richmond. And we can argue that. We argued it on the show. I know Tony Baselli gets a lot of love. To me, he didn't do it long enough. But Zach, it seems to me, I'd be shocked if another linebacker, well, I guess there could be one. But I think that Zach may or should be the next linebacker that gets in, especially when you look at, and this to me was the most telling, is that, Ray Lewis arguably, could be said one of the top 3, maybe number 1 middle linebacker in history of the game. People can argue however you want to argue. Brian Urlacher, great player, first ballot Hall of Famer. We're not saying Zach has to be a first ballot guy, But those were the preeminent guys in that era. And the Hall of Fame, when they vote for the Hall of Fame, is did you dominate your era? You know, if to me, those two guys were first ballot guys, then this is a Hall of Fame player. When you look at the All-Pros, he's right there with them. And All-Pro is not measuring guys just in your conference. It's across the league. And he's got just as many as Ray, I believe. Maybe he's one short. You guys would know better than I. I think he's got more than Brian. He should be in. And I believe he will be in. I hope it's tonight. Yeah. If it's not tonight, I know his time will come.
I mean, tonight would make a lot of sense. You know, you have, sense, it doesn't matter, but you got Sam Madison, a former teammate already in the area. You got Jimmy Johnson being inducted. Just this, I know it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
None of those things equate. You know, it's all about 15 people who are up and 5 spots have to be filled. And whose chance is it? You know, John Lynch, 8-9 years in the room, yet to get in.
That's true.
You know, you've got those linemen. You've got a couple guys. I think, is it Clay Matthews?
Clay Matthews, yeah.
If Clay doesn't get in this year, I think he moves to the seniors committee. Like, he doesn't even – now you could argue he's never even been in the room before. So there's a lot of different arguments, and that's what those selectors have to choose, and that's why they're in that position.
It will be interesting to track, and it is Super Bowl weekend. So let's get some Super Bowl predictions before, we get on out of here. We'll start with Sevach, and then we'll work our way around. So, we're going to put you on the spot, sir. What do you got for the big game?
Oh, well, see, I don't want to give like a score prediction because, this one could really go either way, I feel like. But if Kansas City doesn't just absolutely lay it on in the first half and they give Tom Brady the opportunity to come in the second half and do Tom Brady things, which we're all very familiar with, then this one could easily go Tampa Bay's way. I think Tampa's got the better defense. I think they've, from top to bottom, the roster is a bit more talented for Tampa Bay. So I got to say I'm kind of leaning towards Tampa Bay. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't kind of hope they pull this one out because, I was actually talking with Brian yesterday, and he actually asked me, he's like, hey, I saw that you said you're rooting for Tampa. So is that a regional thing? And I'm like, yeah, kind of. And I gave him a breakdown because this kind of has a personal feel to it for me because for about far back as anybody can remember, I have had family members. There have been Meltons living in Tampa Bay. The
Melton blood runs deep in Tampa Bay.
It does.
It makes sense.
And Jacksonville ain't getting in anytime soon. So
they had it in 2017, man. They had it.
It was so close. I think, and honestly, I blame the head coach for that one. But we're not talking about them today. But yes, there have been Meltons in Tampa Bay for as far back as anybody can remember. And honestly, guys, this past year has been kind of unfair to my family. It felt like we lost a family member damn near every other month or something. It all culminated in November with my cousin. It was the first time I was going to get to see my brothers in person in the same place at the same time in like 10 years. And then I wake up that morning and I'm informed my cousin had passed away, who the last time I had seen him, we were both pallbearers at our uncle's funeral. And so, yeah, in that same year when we lost so many family members in that area, their team happens to make it to the Super Bowl. So, yeah, safe to say, I'm rooting for Tampa Bay.
Ah, there it is.
Yeah.
Well, good luck picking against Tampa, guys, after hearing that.
I know. I'm going to say, man.
Sorry, guys.
We're gonna go up the hierarchy of age. You're following that right now.
Well, here's what I'll say. I wish we were all up there in Tampa Bay for Radio Row. Right here is the virtual Radio Row. And Brennan and I are coming out with our Super Bowl pod coming soon. It's going to be released soon as well. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the schematics and analyzing both teams of who can necessarily win. Personally, I'm a Tom Brady hater. I don't like him at all. Okay? I'm sorry. I said on the last part, I'm saying it again. I don't want him. I want Mahomes magic, and I want him to destroy him in his own house.
You have a prediction? A score?
27-23, Kansas City.
Okay. All right. What about you, Troy?
So I agree a lot with Hassan, man. I'm sorry. Sevach's story, Look, man, I hate going against Tampa now after his story, but I'm sorry. I'm going
Picking
Chiefs.
against the whole Melton family, man.
I know
That's
I
right.
am. I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm going with the Chiefs. I can't root for Brady. I don't have to tell y'all what we've been
So are
through.
we picking who we're rooting for or who we think is going to win?
Both.
Floor is theirs. However they
I
want to
did
take
both.
it.
All right.
Both. Both. I'm rooting for him, and I think the Chiefs are going to win. We know it's not going to be the same. They destroyed them last time they matched up. I still don't think they have an answer for Tyreek Hill. I still don't think they have an answer for Kelsey. Even though the offensive line, they have 2 offensive linemen out, I still don't think it matters. Their defense is great. I just don't think they don't have an answer for the weapons regardless. So I believe that Chiefs have still got it. My prediction, 27-21 Chiefs.
Okay, Doug, what about you, my friend?
I want to like Tom Brady, but after so many years of just having to deal with that man. But no, in all honesty, I like what he did in Tampa. And it's funny too, because I said this in one of my videos. If he was not on the Patriots, I would have liked Tom Brady because I like him in Tampa. But it just so happens he cheated so much on the Patriots that I hate his guts. Except for the Dolphins, we always owned him. But I honestly think that the best way to beat Tom Brady is to constantly get pressure on him. I honestly think that if the Packers were a little bit more competent, they would have beat him. They forced him to throw 3 stupid interceptions. King letting that stupid touchdown before the half. I honestly think that it should be the Packers right now taking the Chiefs Super Bowl 1 rematch. But you have Chris Jones coming up the front. You have Frank Clark. You get in Tom Brady's face. You make him uncomfortable. It's going to be a long day for him. I'm actually picking the Chiefs. I know they're a 3.5-point favorite. I don't know if it'll be that big of a difference. It might be like 1 or 2 points, but I am picking the Chiefs. I'm going to say like a 30-27, 30-28 victory for the Chiefs.
I like that score prediction. That's similar. We're going to come back to mine, but Seth, got to get yours, sir.
So I hate making predictions. I don't believe in it. I'm not a sports betting guy. That's not my thing. I believe that the better football team on paper is Kansas City. I believed that the better football team on paper, was Green Bay. However, I just do not count against Tom Brady. As much as, a Dolphins fan might hate losing to Tom Brady or seeing Tom Brady win all the time, I don't know if he sold his soul to the devil. I don't know what he did, but it's almost cartoonish that the man has been in 14 conference championship games and is playing in his 10th Super Bowl. It's not human. It's almost like watching, Superman was a lot of everybody's favorite superhero as a kid, but then it wasn't because it was like he always won. Superman always won. He was
too super.
It's too super. And Tom Brady, it just doesn't. It's just inhuman. And so I don't see how anybody could pick against him. They could root against him, and that's fine. But it never makes any sense. But somehow he finds a way. And I think Sevach brought up the point that if Kansas City doesn't just jump all over them, although we saw Atlanta jump all over the Patriots one year, and then there was a historic, meltdown comeback.
Just run the ball, Atlanta. Run the ball.
You can say whatever it could be, but somehow that man finds a way. And he's going to post on Instagram with Gronk in the background and give you a little shrug, and he's going to put another ring on his fingers. So the Chiefs are an unbelievable team. I think that Andy Reid is one of the all-time greatest coaches in the history of this league. Mahomes is clearly the face of the NFL for a reason now. They're a spectacular team. It's just that they happen to be playing against Superman. And when that's the case, I think it's anybody's ballgame.
I agree. I'll preface this by saying I'll be able to watch this game with a lot less care about Tom Brady if Zach Thomas makes the Hall of Fame. So if he does, I don't care. Seriously, if he does, I will say I couldn't care less if Brady wins 5 more rings. If he doesn't, I am so anti-Tom Brady winning another Super Bowl, you have no idea.
I do have an idea. I gotta call you out.
I know what's coming. I already got.
I gotta call you out, and you're my guy, so I'm not trying to hate on you here.
I know.
You tweeted.
He's top 5. He's top 5. He's top 5. He's not the greatest physical quarterback of attributes. If you put everything in a vacuum or in a bubble. If you want
Wait
to
a
look at the
minute.
greatest
Wait, Tom Brady's the GOAT. I'm sorry, I don't like him,
Mhm.
but he's clearly
He's
the
playing in
GOAT.
his 10th Super Bowl. That was his 14th
I know.
championship game.
I-
You
Jason.
named guys. You had him ranked behind guys who've been, two Super Bowl wins. Like, Come on, man.
I've got yelled at so much for this.
Jason, that's a bad take. I'm
I
sorry.
know.
See,
Second Jason as
I'm
well.
bitter. I'm bitter.
I somewhat agree with Jason though.
He's
I
so
second
bitter.
Jason as well.
I am so bitter. I admit when I'm bitter. I admit when some people think I'm a little.
I already see where Doug's about to go with this. I already see where
I
Doug's
want
about
Are we
to
talking
go.
about Aaron
Doug, yeah.
Rodgers? Are we talking
I
about Aaron
somewhat
Rodgers?
agree with Jason on this. I call Tom Brady the greatest of his decade because if Tom Brady played in the 80s and the 90s, or heck, even the 70s, he wouldn't have survived. So to call him the greatest of
Guys
all
are crazy.
time,
Nah, I'm sorry.
He wouldn't have
He's the
survived.
GOAT.
What do you mean he wouldn't have survived?
with
Oh,
the face
come
mask
on.
tackles that the
Have you
quarterbacks used to
seen
take,
him against
I don't think he
pass
would have
rush?
survived back then.
And now
Getting
we're off
jammed
on a
at the line
Brady
of
tangent.
scrimmage
I
with
knew
the
this
wide
was gonna
receiver. He's
happen.
getting coddled by this
Yo,
by these
look
play
what you
calls.
did.
I read an article, I forget who wrote it the other day, but it was basically they're not just saying that he is arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. He might be one of the greatest winners in the history of sports.
That was the tweet that made me say he's not the greatest athlete of all time. A lot of people
Outside
thought
of this is his 10th
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
athlete, but athlete.
I'm
if
with
we're gonna
Seth.
use,
I'm
all right,
with Seth
if
on
we're
this
gonna use
one.
the word athlete,
Bananas.
we gotta
Yeah.
look at like a Jim Brown or like
Yeah,
He's
like-
athlete.
playing the hardest position of all sports. To me, the most important position in any sport is quarterback. There's no other position like it that requires all of the things that are required of a quarterback in the NFL. The hardest position, and it's not just like, oh, well, this guy won 4 and he won 5. He was in 14 conference championships out of 21 years. So you telling me he got one game away from the Super Bowl every 3 years? No, 2 out of every 3 years.
Holy
It
crap.
makes-
Alright,
The
Seth
conference championship game.
Seth is right.
10 Super Bowls.
And look, that's the thing. So where I understand where people might be coming from is, Tom Brady was never the most physically gifted, or he was never the most,
Doesn't
I guess
matter.
spectacular to watch, but he was the best at doing what he does. He still is the best at doing what he does, playing his game. And
How
I
old
think
is that
that's
man?
really what made him his strength. He's
42.
42.
He's
Yeah.
42 years old. Sorry, you're 40. I'm 47. I can barely get out of bed. He's 42.
I was about to say,
years old. He
do
threw
you
40
feel like you
touchdowns.
could get up and go play football right now?
Why do you think I hate the man? I mean, look,
I was at the Pinewood Derby all day today. I got to go ice my back. Like,
I thought this
he threw
podcast.
40 touchdowns. He just went to Tampa Bay and brought them to the Super Bowl.
I know.
Yeah.
I
He
know.
That-
won the
what
Super
were they-
Bowl
what-
2 years ago.
What was their record last year?
Who knows?
Anybody
This
remember?
is taking a really
Who knows?
good
It's Tampa
turn.
Bay. Like, who even cares?
I'm not happy with the way this took a turn. But
It is what it
Sam
is.
with
You
you,
know, you
Jason.
can hate somebody, but you
Can I-
gotta respect what the man has accomplished.
Tom wants to
I'll
say
tell you
something.
what.
It's,
I got
Crazy.
it. You're right.
Tom Brady's been winning Super Bowls as long as his son's been alive. Come on, man.
I want to say this. As long as I have been alive, the reason why he's been winning his Super Bowls is not because of him. It's because of his team around him.
Hey,
He's had a great
Guys.
running
Troy
back.
Brown.
He's had a
The greats like Julian
great
Edelman and Troy
offensive
Brown.
the great.
He's got
Oh,
a
Danny
great
Amendola, of
defensive
course.
line.
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
is.
Hall of Fame coach in Bill Belichick. Come
guys,
on,
Let me
you
tell you what.
I'm
I'm gonna
sorry.
start-
Guys are looking through blinders because you can't see past
Nah.
the rage towards this.
I'll tell you
man.
what.
It is
I'll
it
tell you
is.
what.
I'm with
I'll tell you
Seth.
what.
I'm with
Talk
you. I'm
I'm
with
gonna
you,
tell you
Seth.
what. All right. Here's the deal. If Tom Brady wins tomorrow, I will literally. And here's the deal. This is no monetary anything. I will literally face up tweet and say, now that Tom Brady has become the only quarterback
Don't
to win
do
a
it.
home Super Bowl game,
Don't do it.
and he's the second quarterback to win with 2 different teams, I will say that now he has moved up and is 100% overall, when you think about it, top 5 quarterback, number 1 quarterback of all time. But he's not the best
If he
athlete.
does-
He's already is.
He's not the
He's
best
already-
athlete of all
If he
time.
wins, look, if
Bill
he wins,
Russell-
Jason,
Bill Russell has 11 titles. So is he better than Bill
Jason.
Russell?
But
He
he
played
played
against 8
against
teams.
13 teams. There were
Exactly.
14 teams in the NBA with no free agency.
There was no
And Bill Russell,
Jason-
to me, doesn't get enough credit. But come
Yeah.
on,
Jason's
man.
getting upset.
you know what,
Here's the deal.
Jason? if he
Here's the
wins,
deal.
you
It
better.
don't
You
matter
need,
if he wins
yeah.
or loses. It doesn't change.
I
what he's
will
accomplished.
face up and I'll say
That's
I
true.
admit fully I was wrong. Look,
You
when I
might as well
admit
just
I'm
do
wrong,
it
I'm
today.
wrong.
You might as well do it right now, right after we talk.
will you
Might as well
make
do
your
that video.
will you make
But
the banner on your Twitter, Tom Brady, for the
No,
day?
no, I won't do that. Nothing that could be screenshotted and fabricated. I'll own
Listen,
up to
guys.
it. I'm
At
gonna
some point,
give-
you just got to realize what you're watching is
You're right.
just
You are right.
It's superhuman.
Look, man, that's what I recognized when he came over to the Buccaneers. I realized, you know what, dude? I don't hate Tom Brady. I never hated Tom Brady. I just hated that he was in our division. Yeah.
Right.
It was the fact that we had to face him twice a year and that it was a cakewalk to the division title for us.
It's all that. He's playing against your team. He's married to a supermodel. He smiles every time. He's running around high-fiving.
He's living an amazing life.
And he
Like,
just keeps winning. And
It's hard not
out
to
of
be
every
a
three
little envious, you know?
The tuck
just a little
rule.
bit.
The tuck rule, which happened on a birthday of mine. I was watching in my living room for all you people wondering.
Whoa,
I remember it well. I had a
Right.
peanut butter chocolate cake.
that's the most interesting part of the story. That it was in your living room this time.
I rarely
on a birthday of mine.
should see what I had to do before getting Dolphins in my living room before DirecTV.
So talk to me about the tuck rule. Come on, sorry.
Name another person who benefited from the tuck rule. Name another person who benefited
Well,
from
I
that
understand what the point
Thierry.
is.
Name another person who benefited from
I'm sorry, we're
Not
reaching, guys.
running it
We're
on
the
the
worst
reaching.
1
decision
yard
about
line.
Seahawks
We're nitpicking
not
now.
running it.
We're nitpicking now.
Run the ball.
I am a nitpicker. We're going off topic. I'm giving a score prediction. I'm
You
giving you all
guys
out.
recognize that, like, when something happens once, it can be a fluke. Twice, maybe somebody's lucky. 14 conference championship games. You know, Andy Reid coached the Eagles to 4 straight conference championship games. They went to a Super Bowl and they lost. And then he got fired. And I'm like, how the hell do you fire a guy like that? And they got to make whatever decision they got to make. It wasn't an accident that he brought his team to 4 straight conference championship games. And now we're seeing it because he's playing for a 2nd straight Super Bowl.
True.
So, you know, when things start to happen over and over and over again in a league that is built on parity, the league is designed for the worst teams to get better. The league is designed for the best teams to get worse. Free agency even is supposed to level the playing field even more. And yet they win and he wins and he wins and he wins and he switches teams and he wins. It's not an accident, guys. It's just not. We got to recognize it. It just is.
I get
Especially this year.
I get very annoyed
Especially
when
this
someone's
year.
very right. You're very right.
It is what it is.
You're very right.
It's been a pleasure.
I disagree
I'm
with
gonna
you,
allow you
Seth.
guys to sit here and talk about it because I gotta
I
go.
know.
Yeah.
Because this
I
could
disagree
go
with
on.
you,
Thank you
Seth.
very much.
I'm sorry.
Let Seth get out of here with
Hassan,
10 seconds of
Talk to me in another 20 years. Evaluate what quarterbacks you've seen at that point in time, and then we'll review.
Okay.
We'll run it back.
Okay.
We'll run it back.
Until then, you can tell me who the greatest PPO Bengal was in the history of that.
It was me. All right. It was me.
Thank you very much for joining us. What's the next thing you got going on in your world? I know you're one of the busiest guys out there.
You know, we're having a lot of fun with the animated pieces. I don't know if you saw the most recent one with Ralph Stringer and Dan Marino talking about the Ace Ventura story. So it looks like we're going to have, hopefully for the next few months, we'll have a few more of those animated pieces, which is really exciting. The Dolphins have embraced that and have been fantastic. We've been enjoying a little downtime, although OJ and I are starting to sharpen the pencils and put together the guest list. So I don't have any names, and I'm not trying to be coy. We have some guys that we're targeting. Both.
I wasn't fishing. Don't worry. I wasn't fishing.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
You would never. And I'm working on a little project. I'm working on another idea to see if I can stir it up. And then on a personal side, and Sevach knows about this thing, but I'm working on something else that remotely ties the Dolphins in, but it's another way to tell a great story through the podcast platform. So staying busy. Can't wait to get back in the tank with OJ and DJ Preach and to listen to what you guys keep pumping out and arguing over and all that fun stuff throughout the offseason. Because this is the time of hypotheticals. I worked for a guy who said he didn't deal in hypotheticals. So this is where I just watch and listen and let you guys have all that fun with that stuff.
I'd love to say the postseason is just the preseason of speculation.
I like it. Hey, Sevach, tell your wife this doesn't count, right? This doesn't count as you and I talking to them. All right.
I'll make sure to reiterate that.
Get on here.
Seth Levit, thank you very much. Enjoy the game, and let's root for Zach Thomas getting that knock, call, email, whatever it is.
Yeah, let's cheer for Zach. You guys stay well, man. Be safe out there, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you,
Yes,
Seth.
sir.
Take care, buddy.
All right, fellas. Bye.
Later,
Bye-bye.
Seth.
So I'm picking against Tom Brady. It's going to be 31-28. And as much as I love Seth Levit, there's 2 or 3 people that could virtually slap me in the face and tell me I'm wrong. He's one of them. Another one is my father, so I'll make him feel a little old. That's just on you, Seth, for making me feel. But yes,
I love
Tom
that you
Brady.
waited till he left to say that.
I'm a smart man. I'm no fool. I don't want it to
Just
come
learn.
back. I'll get a scathing text from him after I air this thing, or maybe edit this thing out. But we'll see. But yes, I'm going to stick with my prediction. It's going to be 31-28. I know that was very close to someone else. I think Doug, you had like 30-27 or something. But we seem to be simpatico on that. I will say that Scotty Miller is getting into the end zone because Tom Brady's going to think that he's throwing to Julian Edelman because that's what he's going to be used to for Edelman making them one of the most ridiculous catches, Troy. He threw into triple coverage, Brady, and Edelman
remember.
kicked the ball off the carpet.
I remember.
Sorry, I'm all riled
unfortunately.
up. I'm all riled up.
It's okay. See, that's what happens. That
If
Tom
Edelman
Brady
had
talk,
been
man.
a little bit split, the nose of the ball would have touched the ground. There goes the championship. Whatever.
Tom
I
Brady has
still
a
hate Pete
horseshoe
Carroll, man.
so far up his ass. There's my first curse that
Have
he can't. I just
Marshawn Lynch on the goal
Wow.
line.
Oh boy.
That's
yeah.
all Pete Carroll,
Falcons-
man.
We're up 28-3 and
No.
did not run the ball once in the second half.
Falcons was
It's
worse
not
than the
Tom Brady.
Seahawks.
It's
The
the
Falcons were
opposing
great,
team being
Falcons was
afraid of Bill
worse.
Belichick for some GD reason. Has nothing to do with Tom
I did
Brady.
not
His first
expect,
Super Bowl, he sucked. So it has nothing to do with Tom Brady.
Did not expect my blood pressure to spike in a way that GameStop did last week. So things are rough right now after this Brady tangent. But anyway, I want to thank everybody. This was a lot of fun. Sevach, Doug, Hussam, Troy, and of course, we had Jorge Hinojosa on and we had Seth Levit on. So one more time, Sevach, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on the PhinManiacs Miami Dolphins podcast on the PhinManiacs Network and also on YouTube at Seriously Sevach. Although it's kind of, my channel's been a little dormant for a little while, but hoping to get that reinvigorated. And then, of course, our new podcast with the one and only Handsome Jimmy, the Nothing But Noise podcast. Come check us out. Yep.
Love it. And
That's all.
speaking of not dormant, Doug does not sleep. What are you up to other than not sleeping with your?
I don't ever sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a ton going on with the channel, youtube.com/Douglie Do Wrong. I'm actually thinking of starting my own podcast as well, but I don't know if I actually, that's where I might draw the line of not having time. So we'll see if that happens. But I got a ton of things going on with the YouTube channel with my little series. Going to be breaking down free agency, draft, all that great stuff. So be sure to go over, check it out, youtube.com/Douglie Do Wrong.
Can't wait to get into that detective and Mythbuster show. I'm really excited for that. I can email you about 15 other things I'm curious about for you to do some digging. So, Hussam, I know you're busy today. You got some something in the works for later today. What's cooking?
Yeah, man. So we're gonna be building upon our virtual Super Bowl radio weekend. Brandon and I are gonna be, maybe possibly having a couple of special guests on, maybe fans from both teams who are playing in the Super Bowl, and delving into a little bit of analysis and seeing, who are each team's strengths, who are each team's weaknesses, and giving basically a nice little prediction, kind of like what we did today. And, further along the line, Brennan and I are going to be pumping a lot of draft content since it's the off season. And hey, the 2021 draft season is already upon us. We already had the Senior Bowl. We're going to be looking forward to pro days and the combines as well. So make sure you tune into all draft related content at PhinManiacs.
Hussam, you've been doing a great job. Keep it up. And Troy, one of the hardest working guys in fantasy football and Miami Dolphin land overall. Where's everybody? And for anyone who does not know, you had an awesome interview with Matthew Berry and your crew just the other day. So guys, check that out. And what else are you doing and where can we find you?
Appreciate it. You guys find me a bunch of places, but I'm one of the co-hosts of Fantasy Football Confidential. We live stream Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm part of Join Our Circle, or Fantasy Football Intervention. I write and podcast for them, as well as I'm a writer for Ball Blast Football. So you can check out my work both places. I'm going to be talking about free agents. I'm going to be talking about rookies, on the podcast as well as in articles. And you can find me at T King Mode on Twitter. You can find me on like Instagram, TikTok too, but mainly T King Mode on Twitter is where you'll find me being most active.
Love it. Love your stuff. Everyone give all these guys a follow when you can. I'm Jason Sarney at PhinManiacs.com with a lot of things coming in the offseason and heading on into draft and, of course, into the 2021 season, which will be here before you know it. Enjoy your Super Bowl weekend. Good luck to Zack Thomas. So hopefully by the time that this show airs, he is getting some sort of communique that he is one of the 5 in this final class of the NFL Hall of Fame. So thanks for everybody. Fins up and enjoy the big game on Sunday. Take care, everyone.